Random J Productions welcomes you to the Papyrus Motorsports Park in Waltham, Massachusetts for this year's running of the Massachusetts Classic. On this sunny MLK Day, 28 star drivers are all lined up on the back as we're just moments away from perhaps our final ever winter race on the channel. Now, of course, this also means it's the final Triple Owner Challenge race, and that means a PSL Reserve is up for grabs. But of course, let's first take a look at the format for one final time. First, all the cars on track here today are all identical compared to one another, in addition to each car having standardized paint schemes. And of course, each driver here today has their individual driver ratings known as random ratings. And of course, one of the random rating categories is road course, which we'll see in action here today in this massive 3-mile long high-speed road course. Now, as for the manufacturer, it was determined by the reigning PSL champion of Junior Fords, who drove a Dodge during last year's Palm Summer Week season, which resulted in every car in today's field being an all-Dodge field for the second challenge in a row. Now, of course, this will be the first time we're going to see these next-gen Chargers on this road course, and one thing to keep in mind that these next-gen Chargers, besides offering more durability and a closer resemblance to their street counterparts, were also specifically designed to race on road courses better than last year's counterparts. And now, as for the Triple Owner Challenge itself, in the case of here today, the only two drivers that will have a chance for the reserve and win the challenge is M&M's Classic winner Matthew Hill for the Silver Alliance and Madhouse Classic winner Owen Miles for the Ruby Alliance. And if one of those two drivers manage to win again here today, they will win the challenge and will be the first driver to claim a spot in the final Palm Summer Week season later this summer. Now, of course, Silver and Ruby are just 2 out of the 4 alliances we have here in the Triple Owner Challenge, with the other 2 being Diamond and Gold, as each of the 28 drivers racing here today are separated into these 4 alliances, with each alliance having 7 drivers each. In addition as well, the average finishes of each alliance for not only today's race, but also the entirety of this year's Triple Owner Challenge will both be shown by the end of today's race. And lastly, to clarify, this is not a traditional series, as driver points nor a championship will be rewarded. It will just be dependent off either Matthew Hill or Owen Miles will win here today and claim that PSL Reserve for the final season. But before we get started, let's first take a look at our starting lineup and pre-race ceremonies for our final ever winter race. So we got all diamond front rows, starting with the driver who won here in the 2022 Golf Summer Series race, the 97 of Nathan Stapleton, and next to him the 22 of Patrick Miller. Row 2, Alexander Vitale in the 52, and the 80 of Jason Albert. Row 3, the highest starting Gold Alliance driver, Riley Sperling in the 28, and the 51 of Matthew Hubert. Row 4, the 59 of Caleb Rose, and the 25 of Jose Angel Gutierrez. Row 5, 2023 PSL champion Brendan Beal, and the 69 of Johnny Hernandez. Row 6, Jackson Burgum, and the 21 of Roberto Crown. Row 7, Philip Torres in the 46, and the 06 of Madison Chase. We have all gold row number 8 of Matt Burdett the 2 and the 20 of Nick Sant. Row 9, reigning PSL champion Jordan Forbes, and of course the 90 of Matthew Hill, looking to once again win here today and win the challenge and get the PSL Reserve for the upcoming season. Row 10, the 99 of Kyle Sustry and the 11 of Jordan Stout. Row 11, there you see Owen Miles, who's also eligible to win the race here today to complete the challenge and get the reserve. And next to him, the 49 of Dylan Matthews. We got 2 former channel champions in row number 12, the 88 of Anthony Hernandez and the 24 of Keyshawn Richardson. Row 13, Daniel Voiles in the L1 and the 45 of Skylar Taylor. And finally, in row number 14, the 57 of Baby Ruitz, and last week's runner-up from Bowman Gray, the 75 of Jack Haas. And now it's time for a pre-race ceremony, starting with our national anthem. And now, for the final time ever for a winter race on the channel, it is time for the most famous words in motorsports.
Drivers, start your engines.
Let's take a look at the track info here for today's race. So we're going to go 16 laps on this massive, high-speed, 3.7-mile-long road course consisting of 7 unique turns. And as for the weather today in Walton, it's a very, very chilly and cold 29 degrees Fahrenheit, made even more chilly by the 11-mile-per-hour towards the northwest. And as you can see, there is a pit window of 8 to 10 laps, so we're going to see drivers coming down to make pit stops during some point in today's race. And as for the past winners, you see Aiden Thomas for the 2022 Massachusetts Classic, Nathan Stapleton for the 2022 Golf Summer Series race, and Alex Mullen during last year's Massachusetts Classic. Now, with all that out of the way, it is time for perhaps the final ever winter race on the channel. The pace car is down pit road as we're under green here at the Massachusetts Classic. Already, Stable is going to get forced up to the outside as we're 3 wide for the lead. For Spurley on the inside and San Vitalo in the middle. Whoa, Matthew Hubert nearly got turned that time by Jose Angel. But both of them managed to save it as you go down the hill and into turns 3 and 4. It looks like in the turn number 4, San Vitalo will take the lead away from both Staple and Spurley, as those latter 2 drivers are now going to be side by side for second. And you see Patrick Miller and Caleb Rose also in this mix as well as Staple and Miller hit the wall that time by. And yeah, that part of the racetrack where both Staple and Miller hit the wall has been a treacherous part of the race as well. Spurley got very tight that time by into turn number 5. But yeah, as I said, that part where both Staple and Miller hit the wall has been a treacherous part in this racetrack in the past. These drivers have to be really careful about as the rest of this race continues to go on. Coming to complete the first lap here in the Massachusetts Classic for 2025 is Alex San Vitalo, the former Madhouse Classic winner, leading lap number 1, as he has a huge gap over the rest of the field. But that could change quickly as Patrick Miller is now side by side with Spurley for second. But it's very possible once we reach the hill and turns 3 and 4, these other drivers in this top 5 catch back up to San Vitalo. Some drivers in this top 5 include Matthew Huber, despite nearly getting turned by Gutierrez last time by. Caleb Rose up to 4th, Spurley down to 5th, as Polster to Stapleton is stuck in this mess with drivers 3 wide in front of them. Gutierrez, Hernandez, and Philip Torres now falling back on the outside, I should say. You know, off of 4, both Angel and Johnny are still side by side for the final top 10 spot. As all people are in the wall into the air alongside Kyle Stride. Oh my goodness, we have a massive, massive wreck here in the entrance of turn number 5. See, Anthony Hernandez is involved, the 45 of Skylar Taylor, the 75 of Jack Haas, Keyshawn Richardson, and potentially Matthew Hill. Oh my god, I just mentioned, just a lap ago, how treacherous that part of the racetrack can be, and we sure saw that just now. As for the second year in a row here in the Massachusetts Classic, we're under caution after just 2 laps in, and this time around San Vitalo will lead the field back to green, alongside the 51 of Matthew Hubert, and the 22 Patrick Miller. God, I'm still honestly bewildered on just how violent and scary that wreck was. And we're going to take a look at a replay to see how all of that unfolded. So all this started going through turn number 4. Watch the black and white car, Baby Ruiz in the 57, on the center of your screen. So Ruiz gets a run on the bottom, as well as Dylan Matthews as she peeks to the inside of Ruiz to make contact off of 4 since Ruiz off the track. But then as Ruiz comes back onto the track, he hits that safer barrier transition with absolutely nowhere to go for all the other drivers around him, and resulted in both Ruiz and Kyler Sustrad to go up in the air. Take on this from another angle. So definite contact between both Matthews and Ruiz, which sent Ruiz off the track. But again, just hits that safer barrier transition, almost very, very reminiscent of what happened to Joe T in the Golf Summer Series race here in 2022. In fact, it was that exact part of the racetrack that Joe T hit that caused an equally massive wreck in that race a few years back. Let's go on board with Dylan Matthews. So Matthews definitely gets a run on the bottom, and then peeks her nose on Ruiz, trying to set up a pass Instead, the two make contact, sends Rhodes off the track, and at this point right here, we were 4 wide, and there's not enough room for Rhodes to merge back onto the track. My God. And speaking of which, just go on board with Baby Rhodes. Hang on, folks, this is going to be a wild ride. I don't know if these cameras are even going to survive this. There's that initial contact right there, and then boom, right there. Oh my God! Oh my goodness gracious Christ. And finally on board a fellow Diamond driver, Jordan Stout. Yep, absolutely nothing Stout could have done there. It's like a massive hit on Baby Rhodes' driver's side door. Definitely hope everyone's alright after that, especially Baby Rhodes and Kyle Sustrai, as both of them took massive and really scary flips in a really scary part of this racetrack. Now, I did mention before the start of this race that there will be pit stops, and here is everyone coming down pit road. Of course, led by a race leader of Alex Danfatala. Now, as for the two drivers that aren't pictured in your screen, the 75er Jack Cost and the 24 Keisha Arntzen both already came down pit road to do repairs, as both those two drivers did get damaged during that wreck. Anyways, there you see Danfatala, and he's going to do 2 left side tires, and it appears to be the call for most of these drivers, for basically all these drivers. And already there's Danfatala first off pit road, followed by Matthew Hubert, Caleb Rose, Patrick Miller, looks like Madison Chase will round off the rest of the top 5. But anyways, we're already under caution here at Papyrus for the Massachusetts Classic for this very scary wreck into turn number 5. Welcome back to the 2025 Massachusetts Classic here in the Triple Winner Challenge. We're about to go back green after a massive and terrifying wreck off turn number 4 going into turn number 5. And the drivers out of this race because of that include Jordan Stout, Skylar Taylor, Anthony Hernandez, and most notably Baby Rhodes and Kyle Sustrai. Both those two drivers went up in the air and took massive hits. Meanwhile, the 24 Keisha Richardson, the 75 Jack Cost, and potentially challenge eligible driver Matthew Hill also did get damaged from that wreck as well, but are still in the race. Now, interestingly enough, just after that wreck happened, all the drivers in this grid, led by a race leader of Alex Danfatala in the 52, all came down pit road to change left side tires and top off on gas. But if you remember, during the track info before the start of this race, the advertised pit window here at Papyrus is typically 8 to 10 laps. So more than likely, all these drivers will have to come down pit road at least one more time before the end of this race. But anyways, Danfatala and Hubert lead the field back to green here in the Massachusetts Classic. And even though Hubert was first back to the line, Danfatala is a strong run on the inside, but help from Caleb Rose for Rose forces Danfatala to the middle as those two are going to be side by side for the lead. And because of that move from Rose, Hubert's going to get forced up the track as he's now 3 wide from Jason Albert and Matthew Burnett. And here is Madison Chase now looking for the lead as we're once again 3 wide for the lead down the hill. It looks like the turns 3 and 4, both Rose and Danfatala stick to the bottom, while Chase is going to lose a lot of ground in the top 2 as she remains in the top. And there you see Spurley and Miller already making it 3 wide for 3rd going into turn number 5 on Chase. It looks like that's going to move Spurley back up to 3rd, Chase down to 4th as Miller could potentially lose 5th to Jason Albert through turn number 5. But as I said, he gets a strong run on the outside, getting around both Albert and Chase with ease. But continuing down this back shoulder, Rose maintains the lead. But Danfatala is not too far behind, and we'll see if he has any answers for Rose as we continue turns 6 and 7. And you see in the turn number 7 a strong run for Danfatala that time by. Riley Spurley and Patrick Miller look to catch back up with this top 2. And there you see Matthew Hubert currently in 7th despite restarting in 2nd, while Johnny Hernandez is trying to hold off both Gutierrez and Torres coming to lap number 6. This is a battle for the lead. Here's Danfatala now side by side of Rose. Danfatala waited for the right possible time to make a move on Rose. It looks like going into turn number 2, Danfatala back to the lead here in Papyrus. But now here's Riley Spurley also fast approaching on the inside, trying to force Rose to the outside as those two are now going to be side by side for 2nd. And there you see Miller also right behind this top 3, trying to find the right time to make his move as you go down the hill into turns 3 and 4 once again. And you saw that Miller was thinking about going 3 wide that time by, as in the 4, Rose maintained 2nd, with Miller once again side by side with Spurley for 3rd. Looks like in the 5 once again, Miller gets it in the wall as he and Spurley remain side by side. And it looks like for now, Miller's going to maintain 3rd over Spurley, Dropping to 28 to 4th. Albert now up to 5th. As Match and Chase now side by side of Matthew Hubert. Now, some of the drivers back here, see Torres and Gutierrez still side by side for the final top 10 spot. Daniel Boyle's behind those two in 11th. For Owen Miles in the 5, of course, is the Madhouse Classic winner. And one of the drivers eligible for that to win the challenge here today is currently running in 12th. So still a lot of work to do for Miles if he wants to win the challenge. And as for the other challenge eligible driver of Matthew Hill, he's currently the last car in this main group, currently in 21st. Well, the other two drivers still on the lead lap, that being Jack Haas and Keyshawn Richardson, are 22nd and 23rd respectively. As I mentioned, both those two drivers did get damaged during our lap 2 caution. But back to your Lee Sweeter of the 52 of Alex Vitala, who was looking for a second Classic win after winning the 2023 Madhouse Classic in his first channel start. But Patrick Miller is now up to 2nd to 22, Rose down to 3rd, or Sperling maintains 4th. And as you may notice, all 4 alliances are all represented inside this top 4. With Vitala for the Silver Alliance, Miller for the Diamond Alliance, Rose for the Ruby Alliance, and Sperling for the Gold Alliance. Now, fittingly enough, that's also the exact order the Alliance averages were going into today's race. The Silver Alliance have the highest average finish, 11.5, and the Gold Alliance having the lowest average finish of 17.2. And you can see pretty much everyone else single file coming to lap number 8 with Vitala still leading, with Rose looking at the inside of Miller. Miller also tried to force a 52 to the outside, but Vitala comes to block, as the 22 and 59 remain side by side off turn number 1. Now, so getting to 2, Rose is going to move back up to 2nd. Sperling now side by side of Miller, with Jason Albert now fast approaching. And for pretty much the entire race so far, turns 1 and 2 have been the place that these drivers have made their moves to look for a pass. And if a little over half this race still remaining, I don't think that's going to change anytime soon. You see Sperling's back up to 3rd, Miller down to 4th, for Albert side by side of Chase for 5th. Now looks like into turn number 5, Albert's going to maintain a spot inside the top 5, with Chase once again forced up to the outside, briefly going 3 wide there with Hubert and Burnett. But once again, the top 2 is a familiar sight, with Vitala first, Rose second. But let's see if any of them have any answers for Vitala, who's dominated so far here today through turn 6 and 7 this time by. Looks like off of turn 7, Vitala is going to once again hold his ground as you come to the halfway point here today of lap number 9. And you can see Rose is right behind the back bumper of Vitala, but Vitala gets a strong run into turn number 1. For Sperling now side by side of Rose for 2nd. And I mentioned just now, turns 1 and 2 seems to be the most popular place to make a move on someone, and Sperling just reinforced that now as he moves up to 2nd, with Rose at risk of losing 3rd to Patrick Miller once again. Through turns 3 and 4, Sperling now only has 1 car set into sights, and that of course is Vitala, as a driver to 28 is looking for his first ever channel win, while Caleb Rose is going to at least hold off Patrick Miller to keep his spot inside the top 3. Of course, Rose has won here in the channel before back in the 2023 Team Mobile Summer Finale for the PSL, with Patrick Miller, Jason Albert, as well as Madison Chase and Matthew Hubert all also looking for the first ever channel wins. Taking a little bit further back, you see 2 notable names side by side for 15th of Staple and Forbes. Now, Staple, of course, won the pole, but also has won here from Papyrus in the past. While, of course, Forbes is the reigning PSL champion and has ran into the top 5, if not the top 10, in every single challenge so far this year. And unless something happens, it looks like Forbes is going to have an underwhelming day here at Papyrus. Meanwhile, off of 7, here's Sperling looking at the inside of Vitala. He hasn't quite put out the pass yet until now, as we're once again side by side for the lead into turn number 1. And Vitala is going to get forced up to the outside. Sperling's going to be on the inside. Looks like Sperling has the advantage over the 52 off turn number 1. But Vitala is going to continue to fight back in the middle, trying to block a run from Caleb Rose into turn number 2 that time by. But for now, we'll have to settle in 2nd as Riley Sperling goes to the lead for the first time here today. Yeah, you can see down the hill going through turns 3 and 4. Basically everybody in this field, all single file. Pretty much no one making a move on anyone right now. Because I would assume everyone's waiting to get to turns 1 and 2, if not turn number 7 at least, to make a move on someone. Because those parts of the racetrack are, again, seemingly the most popular and best places to make a move on someone, especially if you're going for this race like Vitala is doing right now, as he gets a strong run off of 5 and continuing down the back straightaway. As I said it now, here's Vitala get the inside of Sperling into turn number 6. He's going to force him up the track, as we're once again side by side for the lead. I think we all knew that San Vitale was going to try taking the lead back from Spurley, but it's admittedly coming a little earlier than I thought, as off turn number 7, Alex San Vitale goes back to the lead, coming down to the front stretch, and coming to lap number 11. As I said, here's Caleb Rose that will get the inside of Spurley for second, with Albert also side by side with Patrick Miller for fourth. The top 5 now all in a blanket going into turn number 2, with Rose clearing Spurley for second, Albert now side by side with Spurley for third. The Ruby Alliance has really come to life as of right now, with Rose up to second, Albert officially now in third, and Matthew Hubert now back inside this picture as well. Through turns 3 and 4, the two familiar drivers of San Vitale and Rose are once again first and second. Albert is still side by side with Spurley for third, while Patrick Miller side by side with fellow Diamond driver Madison Chase as he tries to remain inside the top 5. Into turn number 5, here's a strong run from Matthew Hubert in the process, helping out Madison Chase on the inside. It looks like as of now, Chase is going to move up to 5th from Miller's down to 6th. But once again, back to familiar top 2 with San Vitale and Rose going to turn 6 and 7 this time by. And you can see Rose is almost right by the back bumper of that 52. I will not be surprised if Rose tries to look to the inside of San Vitale off of turn number 7, or at least going into turn number 1. As you come to lap number 12, there he is peeking his nose to the inside the 52. When we make his move, it's going to be now. San Vitale gets on the wall a little bit as we're once again side by side for the lead. It looks like Rose will handily clear San Vitale off turn number 1, with the latter trying everything he can in the middle for tucking right in front of Jason Albert off turn number 2. And there you see Spurley forcing Madison up high as we go down the hill into turns 3 and 4. And as a result, Madison's going to end up in the bottom, as well as Matthew Hubert. Rose moves down to the bottom of the racetrack to follow Chase. But now the question is, what are we going to see here from San Vitale as we enter not only the second portion of this racetrack, but also the climax of this race? Now, I did mention also during that restart that these drivers will have to come down pit road for one additional pit stop before the end of this race. And that is because these drivers last came down pit road on lap number 3 just after the caution came out. And most everyone then took left side tires and topped off on gas. And because Papyrus has an advertised pit window of 8 to 10 laps, we're very surely going to approach that pit window here coming down to the front. I was saying the Falcons to the inside of Rose as well as Albert, as there's 3 wide for the lead coming to lap number 13. It'll be 4 laps to go. Rose basically riding them all in the one. So contract between Rose and San Vitale, with Albert still on the inside. And you see Riley Spurley's also inside this picture as well. Can he possibly make it 4 wide through turn number 2 as Rose got very tight that time by. He's losing a lot of ground on the outside. Off of 2 and down the hill, Albert will clear San Vitale for the lead as he's now going to be side by side with Riley Spurley for second. Through turns 3 and 4, San Vitale now to the bottom, still side by side with Spurley. And despite the bottom of this part of the track being the preferred place to be, and Spurley gets a great run in the middle as he remains side by side with the 52 off turn number 4. It looks like into 5, Spurley's going to move back up to second. San Vitale now in risk of losing third to Patrick Miller. On board with Spurley down the back straightaway as he tries to chase down Albert for the lead. Now, of course, that pit window is very much wide open. Will we see these drivers come down pit road? Or, with just how late we are into this race, will we see some drivers stay out and try to fill a saving game? But it looks like pretty much everyone's coming down pit road this time by. No one's taking any chances to save fuel here. Jason Albert, Riley Spurley, Patrick Mill all lead the field down the pit road. And as everyone comes down pit road, Albert's going to lead his first lap of the day as we come to only 3 laps to go. As again mentioned, everybody down pit road, no one even trying to take any chances for any sort of strategy and to save fuel late into this race. And we're going to see what our leaders do here. Albert has a stall up front. He's going to do right side tires, and it appears to be pretty much everyone is also doing right side tires as well, in addition to topping off on gas. Well, if Albert and Spurley are done, here to come off pit road. Albert first off pit road, Spurley second, Chase third, Rose fourth. And you may notice one notable driver that had a very slow pit stop was perhaps the dominant car of the day of Alex San Vitale. He had a very slow pit stop that time by. So he's going to lose a lot of track position and potentially finish outside the top 10 because of that. And as for some of the other notable drivers that had bad pit stops, Matthew Hubert, he was up front for much of the day. He had a bad stop, as well as Patrick Miller. So definitely, of course, tough breaks indeed for those 3 drivers who were up front, as I said, for pretty much the entire day. Now as for the 2 challenge eligible drivers, Matthew Hill's going to more or less remain in the exact same spot where he was before, while Owen Miles gained a lot of spots on pit road. He's currently side by side with Johnny Hernandez as of right now. Meanwhile, here's your battle for second with Riley Spurley, Madison Chase. Spurley wants to get back up to Albert. He has to get around Chase right now. Looks like he will. Off turn number 5, Spurley back up to second, and now has his eyes set. Chase down Jason Albert for the win. But if Spurley wants to get around Albert, pass him for the win, he's got to think fast, because so far there's nothing but clean air in front of the 80 car, while there's 2 hungry drivers right behind Spurley right now. Now briefly looking at some of their drivers back here. Caleb Rose is 5th, Miles 6th, Johnny Hernandez 7th, Torres 8th, Nick Sant 9th, Matthew Burnett 10th, and there you see Alex Sanfatella currently in 11th, despite being first place for much the entire day. Meanwhile, there you see the 2 past PSL champions of Beal and Forbes, Gutierrez back here as well, Dylan Matthews, Jackson Bergam, and there you see Matthew Hill, more or less in the same spot from where he was before pit stops, in 17th. Matthew Hubert down to 18th, while Patrick Miller's going to fall down to 20th after Roberto Crown into 21 just got around him. And finally, as for the last car, still within race pace, that would be the pole sitter and former Papyrus winner, Nathan Stapleton. Definitely very shocking that he's all the way back there, despite that past accomplishment and winning the pole. Anyways, going into turn number 5 for the second to last time, it appears to be a 4-car race for the win between Albert, Spurley, Royals, and Chase. In fact, all 4 of those drivers that I mentioned had never won a race on the channel, but I think the most notable one out of all of them is your race winner with Albert, as he's been more or less a part of every race we've had on the channel since 2020. But even after nearly half a decade, Albert has failed to find victory lane. He's come close many, many times in the past, including this race last year, but never once has he been able to close the deal. But that could possibly change now as we come to the white flag. 1 lap to go here in the Massachusetts Classic, as Daniel Voiles looks to the inside of Spurley for second. And besides both Albert and Voiles both being NOS Energy cars, they're both Ruby Alliance teammates. That's possibly the best driver Albert can see behind his rearview mirror. And that move from Voiles is going to move him up to second, while Spurley is going to move down to third. And despite Albert and Voiles both being Ruby drivers, you can imagine Voiles is also just as hungry as Albert is to win this race, and he's also seeking his first ever channel win here today. But still, just about anything can happen here as you go through turns 3 and 4 for the final time. And a great run from Voiles off of 4 and into 5. So if Albert makes a mistake in this final half lap, Voiles will be right there to capitalize. And if somehow both of them make a mistake, Spurley's not too far behind as well. He's not quite out of this just yet. Continuing down the back and into turn 6 for the final time. Great runs from both Voiles and Spurley. But the question is, will they have time to make their move? Off of 7, Spurley now to the inside of Voiles. And that's going to hand the win to Jason Albert, as finally he will see the checkered flag and win the Massachusetts Classic here in Papyrus. And finally, after nearly half a decade, Jason Albert is finally a winner on the channel. Definitely a big, big congratulations to Jason Albert and the Ruby Alliance today, as he, Voiles, and NOS Energy will finish 1-2 and more than likely the final 1-2 race on the channel. But now I'm going to take a look at the 2 race-winning moves that led to Albert finally winning here on the channel. So this was coming on lap number 13. Sanfatella looks to the inside of Rose, where Albert decides to go 3 wide down the front straightaway. If there was any place to go 3 wide, the best place to do it was on the straightaways. But then in the 1, he makes contact with Sanfatella, forcing him up to Rose, causing those 2 to be stuck on the top, where Albert remains on the bottom. And a fault from Riley Spurley off turn number 2. He gets around both the 2 dominant drivers of the day, of Rose and Sanfatella. And of course, a little bit after that was that final pit stop of the day. Albert led the field in, had to stall up towards the front because he started up front. Did his pit stop, took his 2 tires and gas. And as soon as the jack was down, he was off and away and was able to maintain the lead from that point afterwards. But anyways, for one last time in the winter, let's take a look at the finishing results and Alliance averages after both today's race and the entire Triple Owner Challenge for this year. So here we go. Of course, Jason Albert wins the 2025 Massachusetts Classic. It's not only the 2nd straight win for the Ruby Alliance, but also the 2nd straight Massachusetts Classic for the Ruby Alliance. And finally, the 2nd straight Massachusetts Classic where a driver gets their first ever win on the channel. As of course last year was Alex Mullen getting his first win on the channel. We know fellow Ruby Alliance and NOS driver Daniel Voiles will finish 2nd. And I really feel like if there was an extra lap added to this race, I think either Voiles or Spurley could have very well got around Albert for the win. But unfortunately, it was just not meant to be. A good result for Madison Chase, as she's by far the highest finishing Diamond driver, finishing 4th, while Owen Miles, who of course was one of the challenge eligible drivers, will finish 5th, a good result, but unfortunately good is not enough for Miles to win the challenge and get that PSL Reserve. For the second straight triple winner challenge, nobody will win the challenge and get that PSL Reserve. Caleb Rose, who was up in the top 3 for much of the entire race, will salvage the 6th place finish, or Johnny Hernandez gets a solid 7th place. Same could also be said for fellow silver driver Philip Torres, finishing 8th, while Nick Sant and Matthew Burnett, 2 Golden Alliance drivers, will finish 9th and 10th, running off the rest of the top 10. And as for 11th through 20th, a lot of big name drivers are all back here, starting with your 2 PSL champions, Brendan Beal and Jordan Forbes. And of course, there you see Alex Zanvatella, who not only led the most laps today, but perhaps probably had the best car out of anyone in the field here today, will finish a very underwhelming 13th after losing even more ground during that closing stretch of the race. And that was, of course, in addition to his awful and slow pit stop that knocked him out of contention for both the win and to even get a top 10. On 16th is the other challenge eligible driver, Matthew Hill. He was an absolute non-factor for much of the day. He was pretty much stuck within the lower to mid-teens for much of the day's race. While Matthew Huber in 18th and Patrick Miller in 20th for both drivers who were up towards the front throughout that first half of the race. But just like with San Vitalo, both had very slow pit stops in that final pit road stop on lap number 14. And as for 21st to 28th, there was a lot of Diamond drivers back here. Of course, starting with Nathan Stapleton, who not only won the pole, but is also a past Papyrus winner. But after getting forced up to the racetrack very early on in this race, he was just never really able to recover. And it was just one of many disappointments today for the Diamond Alliance. And behind Staple were the last 2 cars on the racetrack, that being Jack Haas and Keyshawn Richardson, who, despite being over a minute behind the leader, did not go a lap down and actually somehow managed to stay on the lead lap, but finished that far back due to damage sustained from that big wreck on lap number 2 that took out Kyler Suschai, Baby Ruetz, Anthony Hernandez, Skylar Taylor, and Jordan Stout. 3 Diamond drivers right there, all taken out in that wreck. And you're about to see with the Alliance averages here shortly on just how low the average finish is for the Diamond Alliance, with the only real bright spot for that Alliance today being Madison Chase getting the top 5. And speaking of which, here are the Alliance averages here for the 2025 Massachusetts Classic. And there you see the Ruby Alliance with a very, very strong 10.1 average finish. The Gold Alliance with a very respectable 12.14. The Silver Alliance with a rather mediocre 15.71. And there you see the Diamond Alliance with an average finish of 19.29. Not quite as low as the Gold Alliance's average finish during the M&M's Classic of 21.29. But still one of the lowest average finishes by far in this year's Triple Winner Challenge. And finally, here's the Alliance averages for all of the Classics we've had this year. And there you see the Silver Alliance will have the highest average finish across all 3 races of 12.9. The Ruby Alliance not too far behind of 13.57. The Gold Alliance with a rather respectable 15.29, considering where they started off with the M&M's Classic. And finally, the Diamond Alliance, after having the highest average finish in last year's Triple Winner Challenge, will have the lowest average finish of this year's Triple Winner Challenge of 15.96. And that will do it for the 2024-25 Triple Winner Challenge, as well as more than likely the final ever winter race on the channel. Before I sign off here today, I first got to give my big thanks and gratitude to everybody watching who has supported all of the winter racing we've had here on the channel for nearly the past half-decade. Everything from this year's and last year's Triple Winner Challenge, the previous Holiday Winter Racing League, the OG O'Reilly Winter Street Stocks, and even some of the 2022 Golf Summer Series races that were released in the winter as well. Speaking of Street Stocks, I also got to give a big shout out to channel veteran and former golf champion Calvin Baker for helping me come up with the idea for that series to begin with. Now, even though the Street Stocks only ran for a single season, without him and his help, it was quite possible that there wouldn't be any type of winter racing here on the channel at all. I also got to give additional shout-outs to the 2 winter champions of Ryan Wilson of the Street Stocks and Keyshawn Richardson of the HWRO for representing both those series and the channel well. Once again, I also got to give a big thank you to the entire NR community for all the various mods, tracks, templates, and all of the other various tools and add-ons that make these races possible. I, of course, can't go without mentioning our amazing painters and admins we've had over the years for all of our winter-related racing. And in the case of both triple winners, I gotta give a big thanks to today's winner of Jason Albert for creating the base scheme for both triple winner years. Now, even with winter racing being all said and done, our journey together in this final fight is only getting started. As later this summer, we kick off the channel's final ever series, that of course being this year's Palm Summer League. I'm hoping this year's PSL will not only deliver on the same exciting racing and stories y'all have come to expect, but also to provide an emotional and worthy conclusion that our NR journey deserves. But for now, for one final time here in the winter, this is Josh signing out from Papyrus.